Good evening. I hope all is well with everybody out there in YouTube land. It is Monday, November 16th, 2020. Pretty good day. A little bit chilly today, which is okay because you expect that in the month of November. But I'm glad there are people here already queued up, and it's showing 25 viewing already. And we've had people chatting and communicating on the side. And let's see, we have, of course, Jeff Reynolds from the UK, Barking, Essex. Glad you're here, Jeff. Clark Clifford is here. David and Cheryl. And let's see. Hello, Barry, Jeff, and Clark. Also, everyone else who shows up. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so it's just Cheryl tonight. David is at work. Glad you're here. Brian Bergman. Could I ask the group a thing? Sure. Sure you can. Go ahead. Also, he's here from Ida or Idaho. I don't know if that's missing a letter, but it says Ida. So I'm going to guess Idaho. Let's see. Let me go down here. Dennis Paulson checking in. Willie Goodman. Hello. Howdy, ladies and gentlemen. Brian, I've been working on my project for 5 years and recently got a DUI. Should I give up? I guess it's DUI or driving DIU, DUI. Should I give up? No. There's no reason to, you say you'll probably never drive it. Well, 5 years into it, I'd make it an effort to finish it just to prove a point, if nothing else. Yeah, I would definitely finish it regardless. You know, you say you may never drive it, but well, at this point, it sounds like you're not going to be driving anywhere. But you got the car sitting there. Keep at it. Get it done. Use it as a motivation to get yourself on track, and know that maybe I'm sure someday you'll be able to drive it. I don't know what the timeline is with your situation, but definitely can finish the project. David and Cheryl says never give up. Yeah, Brian, got to keep going. You got to keep going. Okay, we got Bob Shoemaker from Oklahoma. Yes, Brian, never give up. I bought back my 70 Mach 1 39 years later to try again. That's awesome. Yeah, Brian, it's really the process I enjoy more than the result, so it makes sense. Yes, I think I'm the same way. It's the process of building these cars that drives me, when they're done, I'm done. But I always keep going because I like to build things, like to stay active in that sense. Clark Clifford says never give up, never quit, find a helper. That's a good thing. Think of that. Willie Goodman, Okies in the house. All right, let's see. Crash Rider from Southern Indiana comes. Greetings to everyone. Glad you're here, Crash Rider. Let's see. Brian Bergman, great group, always here. I always appreciate you all. Well, I'm glad you're here, Brian. I'm glad you're here. John Van Horn, Moultrie is this weekend. Over 400 acres of cars for sale and swap meet. I'll have to check the weather, see what it's going to look like. Maybe. I can't say for sure, but maybe. That's all I can never say is maybe on most things. Hindsight 67, Roger checking in next door. Jerry's Garage from Middle Tennessee. Grease Rookie, Andrew checking in. Glad you're here. Jeff Reynolds responding. Mike Anderson, thank you all for, I guess it's for what you're doing. I'm assuming. You're welcome. Nandu, good evening, Barry and everybody. Glad you're here. Paul Van Halen. I think you're jumping ahead there a little bit. There it is. Barking, Essex, UK. See, I'm getting it right. Warren Witten checking in. And Ballman Zvekic. Bellman, Bellman Zvekic. That's an interesting name. Thoughts on the GT350R? Cool car. I mean, I don't know what else I could say. It's a really cool car. I wouldn't mind having one. Probably never will, but I wouldn't mind. Brian Bergman, not a fan, but still love the AC. Oh, yeah, that's what you're saying, Van Halen. Yeah, no. AC/DC all the way. All the way. Goodmunder checking in. Bad Aries Hideaway. Harry representing from Ontario, Canada. Glad you're here. Mike Anderson, greetings from Western Maryland. Sammy Alicia Smith checking in. Cooter Lev, finally back after a couple weeks of crazy. I'm glad you're here, Cooter. Amitra Redwine, glad you're here. Jason Schneider checking in. We've got some stuff to talk about with Jason's car coming up in a little bit. Rick Stevenson checking in. I got something else to talk about with Rick. Glad you're here. Let me get caught up on some of these. John Van Horn. Barry, thank you for all your help on the experience on the Brooklyn Pony. It's been a great help with my two Mustang convertibles. Glad to hear that. Greg Workshop from Australia checking in. Jim S. Hello from Illinois. I've owned my 65 Mustang since I was 14, 35 years now, forever working on it. That seems to be the case. We're never really done. Never really done. Let's see. Bad Harry's. Hey, Barry, and YouTubers from Ontario, Canada. Jordan checking in. I'm assuming that's Jordan from New Jersey with Harvey, Rally Cat Garage. Seth D. Hello from Nevada. John Van Horn. Weather will be high of 71, clear and sunny for Moultrie. I'll have to maybe see if I can do something about that. Amitra Redwine. Have a question about roof repair. Large dent from left to right, just in front of back glass with structural rust and bent C-pillar supports. Bent C-pillar supports. So you're talking, I'm assuming the roof? Are we talking about a Mustang, first of all? That would be the first question. And then we'll go from there. So fill me in on this if this is a Mustang we're talking about. And, yep, Jeff Reynolds checking in with Cooter. Okay. So we're at 50 on the live stream. Again, I've experimented trying to come up with ways to identify the chat because, I think it was last week we had like 4,000. I had like 4,000 views, and again, people from all over the world, and I had a bunch of people I think that were from India, and how they got on and became part of the live stream, I don't know, because a lot of them were like, "What is this stream about?" Like they just had questions. So I redefined the title just a little bit, trying to focus on older cars. Hopefully that helps with questions and stuff. So we'll go from there. Let's see. Ray asks, the fender video series is great. Picked up some great tips. I have a question about an earlier video where we patched the fender using a lapped weld. Anything you could share on lapped versus butt welds? Well, you're talking about the opposite fender, which is that fender, the driver's side fender for the 68. That I did that lap repair because the way the panel was made, it already had that joggle in it. So I use that as a structural point to make it flat and to keep it from getting out of shape. I have done butt welds to similar panels. I can't say for sure, the lap weld is going to be stronger overall than the butt weld. It'll also help keep it from warping, but it takes some more effort. If you don't have a panel that has a joggle built into it, you have to manufacture that joggle, which I've done before. And the butt weld, you have to be really careful, obviously lining up the panels and stitching it together and take your time. Nothing wrong with it. Just takes a lot more time because you don't want to rush. You got to let that metal cool down between welds. So hope that helps. The only difference not really a difference, but one other thing I'm going to do on that fender that I'm talking about is because of the lap. A lot of people had a question about that. they were thinking that water would get caught, up behind that where it laps. Well, I've already sprayed that with epoxy, and the next thing that I will do is put seam sealer all the way across that seam in an effort to keep the water out. Now, I also point out that in most cases, people aren't driving these things every day. They're not driving in the snow and the rain and ice and all that sort of thing. So it's very unlikely that moisture or water will get up in there and cause problems anyway. But just as a precaution, I'm going to put seam sealer up there regardless. Let's see, Brian, not sure if this comment will make the cut, but you're getting pretty free with those bells, Barry. Well, you get a bell for that. Okay, so Mitra is saying that the car, let's see, the question was about roof repair, large dent from left to right just in front of back glass with structural rust and bent C-pillar supports. So when you're asking the question, are you asking, should you like cut the roof off or try to save the panel? It's a tough question to answer. We were discussing this somewhat with Brendan last week in New Zealand, where he has a 68 Mustang that has a rusted roof, and he has a whole nother roof to put on the car. Now, the challenge is coming up with another roof to replace it with. But if you also have structural rust and bent C-pillar supports, it sounds pretty complicated, honestly, because if it's bowed out the roof panels or the sail panels, as you're referring to as the C-pillars, it's going to be very tough to get that shape back without some serious leverage. So, like, you could use a porta power, put a block of wood underneath, put some bracing across the tranny tunnel, and come up through in front of the rear seat divider and try to press it up. Depending on where the position is, you may be able to restore some of that shape with a porta power. But you also have to have good bracing underneath it because, whatever force you're pushing up, you're also pushing down. So consider that. Otherwise, you may be looking at replacing the roof entirely or making it a roadster. Cut the roof off and make it a permanent convertible. Tough decisions on those. It's without seeing it, it's really hard to go beyond that kind of assessment. Let's see. There we go. Let me get my comments in order. Mr. Tilley checking in from Saskatchewan. And Boondocker checking in. Glad you're here. Okay, so Mitra says 67 Mustang Coupe parts, but the yard I got it from cut the inner structure pieces in half. Can I splice the new to old, or should I try to remove the skin from the roof I purchased? Oh, man. You can splice. It's going to be tough to get in there and make the pieces match. You're in a tough situation right now. First thing you ought to try to do is press up on that roof as much as you can to try to get it more in the proper location, and then make some more assessments from there. I think I need to wipe this lens. Sorry about that. I've been grinding on these panels, and there's dust on everything. There's a whole bunch of dust in here. I just realized that lens had dust on it. But as I was saying, if you could press that up and try to get some of the shape back and then evaluate from there. Lightning Rod checking in. Can I get a bell? Nope. You can't get a bell for that. You have to have a good comment. Marshall, hey folks, watching tonight wearing my hoodie. From Grease Rookie. Got my 65 Fastback off jack stands for the first time in months. Nice to be able to push it outside and get a good look at it. Happy with stance. Good for that. That's good to hear. There you go. See, that's how you get the bell. Clark, make it a convertible Fastback rather than fixing that roof, if in fact it's a coupe. Yeah, that's it's a possibility. Jack W checking in. Okay, Let me get another sip of tea, black tea. Let's see. Wait a minute. Brian says, ouch. Boondocker, hey, I know why you refer to that TV show as Ken Diggett Design. When the show started several years ago, my son, who's now 18, called the show Bad Word Rides, as no in our house curses. Yeah. Well, it's Ken Diggett, and I know what you're saying. You know, I hate that they use that expression, but anyway. Let's see. Boondocker, that's how we still refer to it. Yeah. Guido, glad you're here. Dave Moore, hey gang and Barry, I just finished leveling off my trunk lid with filler. Thanks to your advice and help from one of your vids. It came out perfect. On to primer. Awesome. That's good to hear. Let's see. Clark Clifford, pinky up just like those barking Essex UK people do. Oh, yeah. A spot of tea. Very good. And we have Crafty Cousin, Shelby, checking in. Good. And let's see. Okay, so Amitra have pushed the roof up, but found rust under skin on sail supports. New roof has no rust, but cut in odd places. Yeah, I mean, you can do it. It's going to take some effort to get all those, little inner structure pieces to line up and weld them back together. So, but speaking of welding, I'm going to show you some pictures. Now, I have some pictures from Harry, but I'm not going to share those just yet. I'm going to share pictures from Jason and Shelby that he shared with me. He had some questions, and I can see where people get frustrated with projects, and I can definitely see where people get frustrated with lack of support. Now, Jason had asked for some help. I'm assuming from maybe a Facebook page or somewhere, just asking for some measurements. And apparently, from what I gather, people were rude to him or didn't want to help or whatever. So he had sent me some an email asking for just some simple measurements. So I responded, of course, yeah, I gave him some measurements. Well, if you remember, Shelby did the viewer's project, and that's this car right here. That's the 68 that they had. And in the video, they talked about how the front end was pieced together. Now, pieced together means different things to different people. And he shared these pictures with me because he wanted a measurement from the torque box to the front of the frame rail. And I was like, well, let's see what you got. So there's the car with what appears to be the front half or the front section of the frame rails, which were from another car. They weren't part of this car. They were pieced onto this car. So he sent me this picture. And if you'll notice, those are bolts. Those are bolts stuffed into a gap and welded in. Bolts. Just stuff. I mean, and here's another picture. Look at the frame rail, and then the underside of the shock tower has junk stuffed in the hole. They use that as filler. Down here, it's hard to see by the lighting, but again, there's just junk stuffed into the gap and welded over. This car was a hazard for anybody who ever sat in it, Here's a picture of the apron, and you can see that it's got like an apron section sort of beat into place between the shock tower and the forward apron. Here's a shot before he cut it apart, and if you look down in that bottom section, you can see they just butt welded this frame rail onto this car. They did nothing structurally sound to put this section onto the car. This one, look at that. And that's the driver's side. And there's holes. I mean, it's just crazy. I've never seen anything like that, honestly. And I told him, I said, that's scary, because had that car been in an accident, everything would have just collapsed up front. It would have been just really bad. So anyway, that's what we were talking about with Jason and Shelby and some of the repairs that need to be done to that car. Now, he was looking at possibly doing a section like I did on the 65 Mustang. And I recommended that he should probably do full frame rails just to play it safe. I think that's, if I were doing it, that's what I would do. I would cut those out and put in full frame rails. Just be safe. Put it back together. Make it solid. Yes, you're right, Shelby. It did look ugly. Robert Clymer, good evening, Bear. See, now there you go. I like that. Cheers from Motown. I'm glad you're here. Brian, on a more serious note, is there any way to maintain body lines during body work? Well, is there any way to maintain body lines? I'm assuming, are you talking about like block sanding, or are you talking about when you're fitting panels? There's a whole gamut of ideas out there for making that happen. Doyle Walker, as it's getting colder, painting without a booth, what, I guess, do you think minimum temperature outside for epoxy and 2K primer? It's going to, I mean, you're going to want it probably 60, 65. There's going to be recommendations on your paint product. They should give you should be able to look up like a MSDS, material safety data sheet, or an instruction sheet that should give you the parameters. For me, it's got to be like 60, 65 at least for that to work. Dave Moore, yeah, wow, exactly right. Amitra, I would like to email you pictures, get your advice, having problems with comments for some reason. Okay, email you pictures. Here's my email down at the bottom of the screen, jdaddysgarage@gmail.com. So if you want to email me some pictures, that's fine. And then we can talk about it from there. Also, if anybody wants to be on the live stream right now, send me an email and I can send you a link that, you can be part of the live stream. So let me get back over to comments. Jeff Reynolds Berry, now you can't be trusted with measurements. Yeah, I know. I'm just a eyeball and make it fit. Kuderlev, you can keep your tea, rum, and coke accompanied by Maduro cigar in the shop. Gotta love the Monday Night live streams. Well, yeah. Well, if you want to, I'll take a cigar. I've puffed on a cigar a few times, but I have to focus on the black tea. Let's see. Bad Harry's. Is that where the saying came from? That car is a bucket of bolts. It could be. Mr. Tilly, wow, that's crazy. What some people will slap together. Exactly. And that's, I try to point stuff like this out because, you got to look at these cars. It's easy to think that you've got this fantastic car. I've seen it too many times. You start digging here, digging there, and all of a sudden the whole thing has to come apart, start over. So I'm glad they're taking care of this because it needs to be fixed right. The ones who they bought it from didn't know what they were doing. Well, we don't know who did that work, so it's hard to say if it was people they bought it from or somebody prior to them. Can't really go by that too much. It's hard to justify, who in that chain did the work or sort of work. Shelby, things are ugly and hopefully not anymore. Yeah, hopefully not. Raleigh Cat, Harvey, that car looks like a great candidate for the full front rail components that I put on my 68. Yep. Yeah, you could do the full towers and everything. You could do the pre-assembled shock towers, frame rails, everything all in one shot. Be done with it. I still would probably add some welds here and there, but yeah, you could possibly do the whole thing, and it might be better off. Do the frame rails and shock tower, just buy the panel, put it in. Greg Workshop, hi, that is bad. He's got to replace all of it. Yes, definitely. Wayne Warrior, hi Barry, no more paint booth, all done. Good to hear. Good to hear. Brian Bergman, factory exterior body line. Some of mine have been sanded away. Sanded away? Sanded away body lines. That's kind of, I don't know what, I mean, body lines are usually a crease, a metal crease. It's kind of hard to assess that. I'd have to almost see pictures of it to give you an idea. But you have to have one panel that has good lines on it somewhere, and you could do a variety of things where you take tape, you could stretch tape and figure out where that line should be, and use body filler to build it back. I've done stuff like that before, where the panel was damaged or whatever, and using that, a piece of tape stretched out nice gives you at least a visual to where you can see that line should be. And, if you have to, use filler to get it back into that location. But it's kind of tough. Okay. So let me keep going here. Jerry, black tea or not focused, it's good for your health. Well, I'm only drinking black tea right now, because it helps my throat. Honestly, gives me a little bit more throat something, whatever. Crafty Cousins, not anyone we know that did it. There you go. So Shelby says they don't know who did the work to that car. So Robert, too much Bondo. Yep. Wally North. Well, I thought mine was a 3 dressed up as a 9. I had fake pictures but no bolts. Yeah, I've never seen bolts shoved into a gap and just welded over. I don't know who ever thought that was a good idea. Okay, Brian. Yeah, I mean that's kind of the easy way to do it. You stretch some tape and try to follow that line. Jeff Reynolds is saying, Dave and Cheryl, I'm thinking it's not so much who, but when those repairs were made, possibly at a time when Mustangs weren't valued in the way they are now. Well, here's the thing too. I can, and I've done it before. I've pointed out really ugly stuff that people have done. And I've had people get on the other side of the fence and say, well, they did the best they could with what they had. I can't agree with that. I just can't, because like that Camaro I did years ago, the black Camaro, I was working on it, and I discovered that the floor pan was held in with like almost nothing. I literally took my foot and I had a boot on my foot, and I stomped that floor pan and I punched it out of the car with my foot. Okay. And I was commenting about that. I was so mad that somebody did that. And one of the commenters, somebody commented, says, well, they did the best they could with what they had. No, you can't justify those kind of things by saying, well, they did the best they could. Because if it's a safety issue, if it puts somebody's life in danger, you can't accept that saying, well, they did the best they could. No. If you can't do the job, if you can't make it solid and sound and safe, find somebody else to do it. Step away and get some help. It's just like, I don't know, if a doctor did some surgery on you and he sliced you open and he was out of stitches that day, so he just put some tape on your arm and you're bleeding out, and they said, well, he did the best he could with what he had. No, do something else, but you can't shortchange the process. You got to do it right. And I was really angry at that Camaro job, because man, and this frame rail thing makes me angry. It's like, I can't believe somebody And it's more than likely, again, it was damaged. They decided, well, I'm not going to pay somebody to fix it. I'll just kind of push it back together, hope for the best, and sell it. Who cares if the next person gets killed? That's unacceptable. That is completely unacceptable. So, but it happens all the time. It happens all the time. Robert Clymer, green tea has the most natural fluoride in it. Okay. Robert, at least use the JB Weld and paint over it. Well, yeah. I'm going to have to get a club and beat somebody if they do that. DP, I think I saw a socket welded in the frame in that one photo. That was, I don't know what that was. I saw that as well, but it's a little thick to be a socket. Where's it at? There it is. It's a little thick on the base. It could be a socket. It could be. Jason could probably let me know. I don't know if he's pulled it out yet or not, but yeah, it looks like, it definitely has looks like a 3/8 square opening in the base of it, but just unbelievable. Yeah. Robert, Fred Flintstone would be proud. Yes, he would. Chuck Cooper, hey, Barry, Huntsville, Alabama, checking in. Hope no bolts hidden in my 68. I hope not either. Robert Clymer, thank you for channels like Joe Dad's Garage. I've learned so much. Well, I've learned too much, but it says so much. Thank you for that. Bad Harry is when I took my driver's side floor pan patch apart, there must have been half a gallon of tar holding it together. Yep. I've said it before. I had a friend who had a 66 Mustang, really pretty car, burgundy, vinyl top, V8 automatic, black interior. It was nice, really sharp car, young guy. And they bought the car. Him and his dad bought the car, and they were driving it, and something didn't feel right. And so this back when we had the body shop, they asked me to take a look at it. I said, okay. Well, they pulled the carpet back, and I pulled the carpet back, and it had pieces of aluminum, just like sheet, lightweight aluminum, held onto the floor with silicone. There wasn't even there's no pop rivets or nothing. They just took silicone and went all the way around this thing and pushed it down into the floor, put like weight on it until it cured. And then underneath, they spread around seam sealer and said, yeah, the car is perfect. It was, if you didn't need floors, but yeah, it was pretty rough. I ended up cutting out floor pans for it and fixing that one up. Gary, my 67 had expanding foam in the front frame rails that were painted black to hide it. There was no bottom nearly the whole length. Oh my gosh. It's crazy what people will do because they just don't care. They don't care. They just want to make a buck off of somebody and get it away from them, and hopefully that nobody comes back on them and threatens to kill them. John Van Horn, being so on the junkyard business for over 35 years, it's just body men that don't care about the job, just get it done and get it out. The customer will never know. Yeah, well, in some cases, but like this stuff where they just stuff bolts in the holes, that's some backwoods guy. That's not even a body guy. That's somebody who just tried to, piece it together. So he had a cool Mustang, maybe drove it for a little while, and then got rid of it. Yep, I do too. David Sherrill, did the front end patch include the fender vents? Hopefully they didn't. I don't know on that one. Yep, I got you, Robert. Let's see, Jeff. It seems it was a botch done at a time when someone thought it would never come under the examination that any Mustang would have come under today. Well, that's a good possibility. But my bigger concern is had they sold it to somebody and somebody wrecked it, that thing would have it could have been killed, just like that Camaro that I did. Because the Camaro, the frame rail, actually, the front subframe bolts to a brace that goes underneath the floor, and then there's a cross brace. Everything is bolted and attached to the floor. So that Camaro I did, if they had been a hit in the front end, those frame rails would have went straight up and taken out legs, people. Just like Harvey, he sent me pictures at one time where the car that I think his son was driving when he got hit, and the right front frame rail rotated, and it came up through the floor. Doyle sent a couple photos, rear quarters in a hot Bondo mess, half-inch thick. I'm going to replace both rear quarters. Okay, good. I'll have a look at those in a second. I'm going to send an invite to Harvey, and we'll see what's going on with him. I know he's probably got some good progress on his 68 that he's been building. Let me go back here. All right. Yeah, Doyle, I'll have to take a look at those photos. It's kind of hard to do everything while I'm spooling through the comments and stuff. Winged Warrior building a Ford 9-inch for Fastback mic. Almost ready to install the new 370 ring gear on the new track lock spool. All the prep done and some sub-assemblies built last night. Cool. Good. Jason, I didn't notice a socket-looking thing until after. I'll have to look through the pile. Yeah. Robert Clymer, give me a week or so, Wing Warrior. You can have my 31 spline full spool. I'm swapping it for a Ford track lock limited slip. I just want to be able to turn the car. Yeah. I took the mini spool out of the 68 rear end just because I could not move it around the garage. Boondocker, aesthetics is one thing, safety is another. Shame on someone. Yes, definitely. Brian, warning to all, I found flaking primer on a project. At that point, I suspect everything done. You should feel the same. Yes. Anytime you get primer flaking off, something's not done right. In other words, did they switch out the visible and hidden fender VIN with the repair parts? Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say what's what. In fact, I was looking at if you were to go back to the first couple of videos on the 68 on Jade, first 5 or 10, I don't know. I did a video on the aprons, and I had removed the left front apron, which was basically held in with a couple bubblegum welds. And I kept the front apron and the core support, because the core support was actually two pieces held together with pop rivets. I still have it. It's sitting outside. And I was curious because I didn't think about the VIN number at the time. And I started, because I didn't see one, right, on the apron. The apron that was in the car, I didn't see one. So I was looking the other day, and I noticed that where the paint line is, like if you were looking at the panel, look at the panel, and where the outline where they sprayed black paint with the fender on the car or whatever color it was, if you look underneath where the fender overlays the apron, there was a VIN number stamped in there. Now, I don't know if it's the same number as what's on the car or not, but it was done with a different set of dies. It was not the original tooling. And then I looked closer, and apparently that panel is another VIN number that they just bonded over it. So I'm gonna open up that Bondo and see what the VIN number was for the car they took the panel from to try to fix the Jade Mustang. So, but Jason will have to look into that and see what's available or what's left of his apron. Robert, my 67 S code 460 BBF is almost ready for the street race car conversion back to street machine. Very cool. That sounds very cool. Joseph Jaraja, I don't know how you say that. Question is it worth buying and restoring classic, and how far can you go with it? First time since I semi-worked on a 69 Cougar and gave up halfway. There's a lot of variables. You can, is it worth more to you than it would be to sell it? Because value is different to different people. Whatever I have tied up in Jade right now, I probably won't get that back because I've got time, materials, labor, parts. So I probably never get that back. But it's not about that for me. I'd rather be building a car than sitting still and doing nothing. So that's kind of where I'm at with that process. So, it has to be worth it to you, but you have to weigh those things out. Abyss 25 says hi, and Jason chimed in. Shroud VIN, or I guess he means apron VIN or shroud VIN, does not match. Door tag is from a different car as well. So lots of mixed parts there. Okay, we're going to get Harvey on and see what he's got going on. Hey, Harvey.
Hey, Barry.
How you doing?
How's it going today?
Good.
That's cool.
So what do you got going on?
Well, I know you said you thought I'd probably be making great progress. I have been working on my car, but sometimes you do things that don't really show up a lot.
Yep.
Recently I've posted a few things on Instagram. I did get that rear body panel, and I remember I watched your video where you had about 3 or 4 of them, all different manufacturers. The rear valance I meant.
Yeah,
and, they all had kind of the same quirks with them, welds in funny places, brackets in the wrong places.
Right.
And I think the one that worked the best for you was the one I got. Mine actually fit pretty good. I had to make a few changes and cut a few corners off that were, cut too square to fit in the back of the car. But, a couple hours later, I had to kind of fit it up and, pretty happy with it. So that worked. And I got the one that had the 2 cutouts for the dual exhaust.
Right.
Kind of debating which one to go with, a straight panel or that. And I went with that. And just by luck, when I put my pipes in, the exhaust system I got, it was funny. It stopped kind of like, sort of like midway between the wheel and the rear bumper. And you have to kind of put your own ends on it. Like, it just didn't come with them. It wasn't a real expensive system. I think the whole system was maybe like $200,
Okay.
But, I bought a couple 2 1/4 inch pipes. They were already flared out and fit them on there. And they fit almost right dead center in the middle of those openings for the rear body panel, which was pretty cool. Or rear valance panel, sorry.
Right.
So that worked out pretty good. I manufactured a couple hangers. I took a few of those universal type hangers and did a little cutting and welding on them to make them fit real nice into the gap and clear the springs and clear the gas tank and all like that. And so I'm happy with the rear panel. Got the exhaust system all the way out the back of the car now, which is good. So that was a couple little things. It's nice. You can, when it's your own car and you don't have to worry about driving it, you can do a little, take an hour here, an hour there, just keep picking away at stuff,
Right.
And then the other thing I did was last when all this COVID stuff hit, I restored my heater box. And it's been kind of sitting in the corner of the house just waiting to get put in the car. And I've been dreading it because I don't know if you ever put an air conditioning heater box in one of these cars, but it's tight fit, man. It's tough.
I took one out.
But I took it out and I didn't ever want to put it back in,
Well, I took mine out and sold it.
Yeah, as I'm wrestling it back in, I'm thinking, man, maybe I should have just bought like a non-air conditioning heater box and put in here if I'm not putting air back in,
Well, that's why I went with the vintage air. I was like, I'll put all new stuff in there and not have to worry about it. But
yeah, I kept my options open. I pressure tested the evaporator core, and that seemed like it was good and tight. It actually, the whole box wasn't in that bad a shape as far as corrosion goes. It was just cracked up and busted up in places.
Right.
But the evaporator core is in there. It's capped off. So if I decide to go with air, at least I have an evaporator core in there. And if I don't, I'll just leave it. It's okay.
Right.
No big deal. But it was cool. The car originally had air. It's kind of nice to have the option, even if somebody else buys it someday and I don't have it. Maybe they want to put air back in it,
Yeah. I mean, it's nice to keep that option available.
Yeah. So that's been it.
I have a couple questions. I'm going to answer this one because I need to, but the question was from Gary DiCrescenzo. I say the VIN section, should I weld it into the new front end? I would weld it in. Make it look smooth, blend it in, make it nice, but I would weld it in. Cooter Lev, Harvey, what is your Instagram?
Rally Cat Garage.
Okay, so Instagram is Rally Cat Garage, just like his,
YouTube channel.
What's that? Just
It's
like
the same
YouTube
as my
channel.
YouTube channel.
Right.
Yeah, Rally Cat Garage.
So look up Rally Cat Garage for Harvey's Instagram.
Yeah.
Okay.
I do have a lot of my build pictures are on Instagram. Like just everything I do usually has at least 5 or 6 pictures kind of representing a job that I do.
Right.
Kind of document along the way,
Right. And that's what I do too. I try to throw a sequential set of pictures in, and give an idea what's going on. Hold on just a second. Brian Bergman is asking, how do I join your stream, Barry? I know you have explained this before, but I would like to try. You have to send me an email. So send me an email and I can send you a link back, and then you can jump in. You can, get on there. So anyway, the email's at the bottom of the screen if you're interested. All right. Go ahead with what else you got going on, Harvey?
So one thing I found that was pretty neat, and I've worked on cars almost my whole life, and I never really realized this, but I'm putting this heater box in, and the one thing that was tore apart on the car when I got it was the box had vacuum lines laying all over the place, cables laying around. Nothing was really hooked up. It was almost like somebody either started to take it out or they had it out and started to put it back in, but really didn't get much done.
Right.
So I'm poking around under the dash, I guess a week or two ago, and I'm looking at all these vacuum hoses, and I'm thinking to myself, tracing these back to the dash is going to be really hard. I do have my other white 68 is a complete untouched car with air. So, if worse comes to worse, I do have an example that I can look at.
Right.
But as I'm looking at all the lines laying under the dash, I realize that they're black hoses and they have colored stripes on them. Purple, green, white. So I go online, Google my favorite place, and I found some really good diagrams, really easy, of the air conditioning routing for the vacuum hoses, and they're color coded.
Nice.
So it'll say green or white. Like, it doesn't say black with a white stripe. It just says white. But as I looked at our white car, which is untouched, all those hoses lined up with the exact place where the things were.
That's
so
cool.
It worked out really good.
Yeah.
So now I got at least a roadmap how to put the thing together without having to trace all the stuff back through the through the dashboard.
Right.
And I have it backed in my garage right now, as you can see. I didn't feel like running it to test out all the vacuum solenoids and stuff. But I do have a hand vacuum pump that I use for, bleeding brakes sometimes and stuff. You can hook into the vacuum source with that, pump it up a couple times, flip your controls around, and actuate all the doors open and closed and stuff like that to see how they're working.
Yeah.
So I found out that I have, 2 bad vacuum motors or solenoids, whatever you want to call them. And everything else seems like it works pretty good. So I ordered a couple of those, and I've got the vacuum routing pretty much sorted out. I'll replace them and then see if all my controls work in the right way. Defrosters flip on when they're supposed to. Heat comes out by your feet when it's supposed to. All that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a little learning experience. It was almost by accident. I just happened to notice the colors on them and thinking that's kind of significant.
Yeah.
So I can't be the only guy that's struggling with that particular thing. You look under there, you got vacuum hoses all over, nothing's working. That's a big help.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
And that's good information to share too. I mean, I'm glad you brought that up. Let me answer a couple questions. Winged Warrior says, "Sweet shirt, Barry." I can't argue with that. Robert Clymer did the same here. Harvey with the Valance and pipes. So there you go. Thomas, I enjoy doing fab work. If framework is involved, it goes to the frame guy. My own vehicle is one thing, but not even for a friend. There's too much risk involved. Okay, I can appreciate that. Boondocker, if you're doing a car to the degree Barry is and you're doing it for profit, it's probably going to be hard to stay motivated, especially if you're questioning yourself beforehand. That's talking about if it's worth it to get into a project. Robert, I have a complete heater box original 67 Mustang if anyone needs one. So there we go. If anybody needs a heater box, Robert has one. Greg is saying, "Hi, it's good when it fits." Yes, that's right. When it fits in, it's good. Speaking of heater boxes, and what genius engineer thought cardboard was a good solution for the 65, 66 Mustang heater plenum. Yeah. That's a good point.
10-year car, right?
What's that?
10-year car is what they were supposed to be,
That's
right?
what they were supposed to be thrown away and done with.
Yeah.
Brian Francis checking in. John Peters. What are some inexpensive options for a Posi on a first generation Camaro future LS swap? I don't know. It's hard to come up with inexpensive options for a Posi. I don't have anything specific that I can say. The cheapest thing is to do a mini spool. That's your cheapest option to make a Posi, but then it's Posi all the time. Both wheels are just turning. You go around a corner, and that's when you hear the car go because it can't turn. But I don't have a good option for you on that. Sammy Lisa Smith, good night, guys. Got to be at work tomorrow. Okay, good. Glad you were here. Kuderlev, just top 100 watching. Yep. Let's see. Robert Clymer, John Peters, do GM cars use spider gears, open differential in lieu of Posi limited slip? I believe they do. They same design, basically. Okay. All right. We'll continue on. So what's the next step in the process, Harry?
Well,
Harvey. Sorry, Harvey.
Oh, that's okay. So I keep looking at this other side. I feel kind of like your Jade car. I'm looking at my door and fender on this side that are, kind of rusty and beat up. And I think I'm going to dig into those next and probably, start with the door. I got to weld one of those corner sections in like I did on the other side and straighten out a few creases and then probably onto the fender. And I'm probably also welding the antenna hole up just like you did on your car. I don't like that hole up there either.
No. Well, I've had a lot of people ask me about that. What am I going to use? Well, they make little stubby antennas. There's little ones they use for sports cars and stuff that are only this long. It doesn't have to be sticking out of your fender. It can be under the dash. It'll still work. Yeah,
that was my intent, was to try and tuck it somewhere under the dash where you can't see it, or next to like an A-pillar or something, someplace where it'll do its job but not really be very visible.
Right. Well, like a lot of the old GM cars, they just had 2 wires up in the windshield.
I almost forgot about them. Yeah.
Yeah, they had just a couple of wires. Well, and I've seen it where people have taken just a little stubby, flexible antenna and just tucked it up underneath the dash. It's worked fine.
Yeah.
For the most part, I don't know how many people just listen to the radio directly anymore. It's usually an MP3 player or hooked to their phone or whatever. But I'll have something, and it'll just be a very simple antenna, nothing complicated.
Yeah, our white car has the guy gave it. It had some aftermarket something AM/FM radio in it, and he gave us the original AM radio. So Jared put it back in, and so it's got an AM radio we never listened to. But this time he pops a Bluetooth speaker on the dash.
Yeah.
And just syncs it to his phone and just plays music through that. And that works great,
Yeah. I've done a very similar thing in the Franken truck because it has I don't have a radio. So I have a little MP3 player, a little tiny little MP3 and one of those little whatever speakers and just turn on the MP3 and just, it's all I need.
I'm good with that. I'd rather hear the exhaust most of the time anyway,
Yeah. Well, that's something else I was going to comment about as the night went on. I saw a video the other day where a guy did a demonstration on his 65 Mustang. He did a live recording driving down the road with the windows down after he installed, I don't know if it was Dynamat or Killmat. Mm-hmm. And I was amazed at how quiet the car was, even with the windows down, driving down the road. It was really quiet. So anyway, I'm going to be doing some of that in the future. And I have a box sitting over here from Amazon with, I think it's Killmat that I bought that I plan to put in on the firewall behind the heater box. So
yeah. Let me, in fact, it's funny you said that. Hang on one second. Let me show you something I grabbed.
That's fine. Winged Warrior says, shoot, I just missed the $5 tool day at Harbor Freight. $5 grinder is a $5 grinder. I didn't even know they had $5 tool day. Jerry is checking out. Good night, all. Got to go to a meeting. So glad you were here. Gary DiCrescenzo, I would love to install inner front fenders like all the new cars have. Does anyone make some? That I don't. I've never seen like the plastic line fenders for these Mustangs. I've never seen anything like that. So unless somebody else has, I haven't.
Might be cool to have.
It would be, yeah. What do you got, Harvey?
So I wound up, I labored long and hard over this, and you and I even talked about it, as to what to insulate the firewall with behind this heater box, because, you know, my fiberglass insulation was all beat up, falling apart, mouse eaten.
The jute.
Yeah.
Jute stuff.
So I went with, let me get see it, or if it comes out backwards on the camera.
Yeah, Dynaliner, okay.
Yeah, the Dynaliner. And, you know, if you read the, you know, it isolates vibrations, reduces noise, blocks heat. I'm like, well, that sounds like a home run if it works. And it doesn't take up nearly as much space as the fiberglass did. You know, this is a piece of it cut. You can kind of.
Okay. So is it like a foam?
It's like a foam on one side with a, you know, a real good adhesive on the other side. You know, you peel back the white stuff. And, you know, I cut a piece basically to shape, stuck it in there. Few slices here and there, because that area behind the heater box is tricky. It's not just a flat piece of firewall. It's got some indentations and stuff. But I cut a few relief cuts, tucked it in, kind of started from the center and worked my way out. And I'll tell you, once you push it in there, it really holds on tight, because there was a few places I wanted to pull it back and move it a little, and I was surprised at what of a tight grip it had. But overall, you know, I did probably below the heater box, maybe about 3 or 4 inches. And thought, you know, I can get it in, get the heater box completely installed, and someday the floor will get that later.
Right.
But for now, I got the heater box in the car, and I was pretty happy with it. So, you know, I forget, I shopped around, and I think I found the deal on eBay for it was pretty good, you know, but none of them are really cheap, and I'm not sure about thicknesses and stuff. So I'll see how it goes. I wish I could rate it now, but the car's not on the road just yet.
Right.
But I'll keep you posted if I get mine on the road before you do.
You probably have a better chance than I do at this point, but I'm trying. I'm trying.
Yeah.
Let me see what else I have here. So Roger, Hindsight 6.7, is answering the question, or trying to answer the question. Where'd he go? Hold on. Once I start scrolling, it takes off, and I got to get caught up on it. So he says, John, I think there's a drop-in ratchet locker for GM 10 and 12 volts that doesn't require changing the carrier. He'll take a look. So there you go. Winged Warrior Quick Performance is currently running specials on rear end stuff. So there may be another option. Lightning Rod, who needs an antenna? MP3, yep. Old Crony's Garage is checking in. He's a mechanic in training. Glad you're here. Let's see. Okay, so Winged Warrior, I have 100 square feet of kill mat on its way to be delivered tomorrow. So there you go. Let's see. All right, so we have nope. Goodbye. I'm not going to post those. Somebody starts being stupid, they're going to go bye-byes. And they're not going to get a chance on it. All right. Yeah, I banned them, Travis. I got rid of them.
You were talking earlier about getting measurements off of the cars. Was the car you were getting measurements off of your stray pony? Or was it
No, it was off of Jade.
Oh,
because
okay.
he wanted a measurement from the torque box, the face of the torque box, to the front of the frame rail.
Got it.
So being that I don't have the fenders on the car, that's an easy measurement to make. And took care of that pretty quick.
Andrew from Grease Rookie Garage and I were talking. He was measuring on his car, and they were trying to figure out what was what on that.
Right.
And I said, my white car is pretty much an untouched car. It's got all original panels on it and stuff. Nobody's welded any rails in it. That might be a good example to So we pulled some measurements off of my car. It's funny, we were video chatting. I'm under my car, he's under his, and we're measuring different things on him, and found that the 68 measured really close to his on the undamaged side.
Right.
So the underside of the cars are very similar.
Yes.
So I think he was saying, he'd like to. I want to too. I'm going to set that car up one of these days on a nice level surface, and I'd like to do a real good measurement of it, and then just post what I have, because when you look at the stuff online, there's measurements all over the place.
Right.
When I did my car, I was trying to use the drawings say forward down the bottom and all like that, but some of them are off by inches. I mean, if you couldn't possibly have put it together with the measurements that they have on the sheets. And I did that for a living. I know how to read a frame sheet. I wasn't reading the measurement wrong.
Right.
I know what the datum line is. But so that'll be something kind of a fun project. It won't really net me anything, but be something kind of good for other people out there. Like I said, we're gonna do that, and I think if I get the measurements, Andrew said he'd use his talents to kind of put a nice little presentation together for it.
Yeah. Well, I was really happy to hear that you two had gotten together on that to figure that stuff out. Let me see if I can make this work. Okay, that's not going to work. I was trying to. I've got moderators for the channel, so that when I do these live streams, they can help me out and get rid of these people. So I was trying to get Roger on there because I know he's right next door and he's on there, but I can't. I don't have him listed. He's not listed as whatever his YouTube name is. It says Hindsight 6.7, but I'm guessing it's not what it shows. But anyway, like I said, I'm glad you were able to get together with that and help him resolve that. I know that whenever I was there and talking to him, that was one of the things I'd mentioned to him about taking the weight, of 4x4 and, kind of flexing it down. And his video shows, hey, that worked. It took care of it. So, he made me nervous when he was up standing on that frame rail, kind of bouncing on it in one of his videos. And I was like, no, don't do that. These cars rely on cross pieces, keeping them connected. And that was out in space. It very easily could have just folded over on them. So, well,
we talked about the phrase, I think we call it, was sneak up on it,
Yes.
A little bit at a time, an eighth of an inch, a quarter inch, a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's pretty neat. Like you talk about community. It is a neat community you have on your channel here. A lot of good people with a lot of knowledge.
Yeah.
And if you need something, you can reach out, get some answers. People will take measurements off their cars, send you pictures of stuff if you have something you're not quite sure how it goes together.
Right.
It is a pretty neat group of people. Like, car guys are pretty cool,
Yeah, for the most part.
For the most part. There's always a couple of bad eggs in every dozen, but
yeah. I see you in the background there, Brian. I'll get with you in just a minute. I'm trying to keep up with some of these people on the side here that are trying to jump in and make it ugly. So a lot to try to manage as I go through this.
When your numbers look good, it gets hard, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, last week at this time we had 225 people on here.
I don't know how you manage that. I
have no idea either. But that view, that thing had 4,000 views or 4,500 views. Thinking, what did I do different? Let me see where we're at. Okay. Some of these are being comments to other questions. Yeah, Robert, I've got some mods for the channel. I don't know if they're not around. So Greg Workshop is checking out on us. Time to go. Okay, so Barry, shout out. Thanks for the measurements for the parking brake bracket. Oh yeah, that's true. I'll give myself a bell because he had a question on where the little bracket goes on the driver's side floor support. And so as I do, I crawled underneath my car, took some pictures, and sent it to him so he could get his thing in place. So
yeah.
Yeah, Bad Harry says a site with measurements would be great. It is so tough when you have nothing to measure off of. Yes, very true. Eric McGinnis checking in. Okay. Harvey, I have Brian waiting in the background. So
Okay.
if it's been nice having you on here, we'll do
Yeah,
it
it's good
again
catching
soon.
up.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking forward to more updates on your car.
You got it. So well, have a good night, and I'll see you soon.
All right. Thanks a
All
lot.
right, take care.
Okay, so Brian, I'm gonna bring you onto the stream. There you go. You're ready to go. Okay. So there you are. How are you doing? Oh, I can't hear you. Can't hear you. No sound. No sound. You should. Oh, wait a minute. Wait, that's my fault. Wait a minute. No. You're muted on your side. There you go. There you are.
Barry?
That's better. Yes.
Okay. Good. I was getting an echo before, and now that solved that as well. So that's good.
Okay. That's better. Yes. Yeah. You may have to turn your volume down a little bit.
Getting an echo before, and now that solved that as well. So that's good. Okay. I hope this works. I'm kind of new at this.
Sure.
Yeah.
So what's going on?
Yeah, it's been great. I found your channel maybe 2 years ago.
So what's going on?
And
it's been great.
Yeah, and I'm still working on the Fairlane, which everybody knows is a Mustang in different clothing.
Yes.
So everything you do, including bodywork, is the same. And
everything you do, you might try turning your volume down a little more.
A little more.
Yeah, it's still picking up on your. I guess you're using your phone, or are you on your laptop?
No, I'm on a desktop.
Desktop. Okay.
So I apologize to everyone.
No, that's okay. You're fine. You're fine. Go ahead.
But I've painted probably 5 cars in my entire life. And the information I've been able to glean from your channel has been a godsend to me trying to take on this project. It really has.
Good.
And really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
And I really appreciate the fact, not just you, but many other people that will take the time, even though, I'm sure you make some money off this and there's no problem with that, but I can't imagine the time and effort it takes to do these videos for people, and I'm not sure it pays back what you're putting into it or not. That's not my place to say, but personally, I appreciate it.
Well, I'm glad, and I appreciate hearing that. I really do wish that I was getting back the return for the effort, but it's not nearly as good as it could be or should be. But I'm not going to stop. It's still worth doing. So.
Well, Barry, if you're anything like me, I look at it when I look at my kids. I love teaching them stuff. And I think if you feel like you're teaching people, that's probably where your reward might come from.
Yes.
If that makes sense. That's how I am.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it is for me. And I've mentioned this before on different live streams and whatnot, that, growing up, my dad had a junkyard. And anytime I would ask him, hey, can you show me how to do this? Or I'd ask my brother, hey, can you show me how to do this? Neither one of them would show me anything. They would just say, go figure it out, go figure it out, go figure it out, which is all well and good. But we all know that the stuff that we're taught or deal with as kids sticks with us for life. And so now I'm at a point where I've always been this way. When somebody asks me something, I try to find an answer, or I try to, relate information, because if they're willing to ask the question, it's only, in my opinion, it's only fair for me to try to answer that question. So
Yeah.
I don't try to leave anybody hanging. If I don't know, I don't know. But and that's where sharing this information is kind of an outlet for me as well, because a lot of the stuff I've learned on my own, and some from other people and different things. But if the information doesn't get crossed over, what's the point when I'm gone? It just dies.
You'll be lost at some point.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we don't bore your listeners to death. I'll get back to the question I asked you earlier in text. It had to do with body lines.
Yes.
And I was talking about the exterior body lines on the car. What actually happened on my car is it had really bad bodywork, and they actually ground a ripple into the body line. And I want to get that back. I know I have to get it with Bondo, but what's the best way of getting that straight to where it looks at least factory? I'm not doing a show car, just a factory.
Right. Well, like I said, probably your best bet is just to pull a tape line.
A tape line.
Yep. You could do a tape line, or you could do a laser level.
Yeah.
You could get a laser that you can index.
Yeah.
And pick up whatever line you have available and use that laser as a reference.
Yeah, if the line's straight.
Well, yeah.
I'm
that's
not
the
sure
tricky
it's
part.
supposed to be straight.
Okay.
So, and
on the
Fairlane
Fairlane
thing, and I hate to ask you this, but this one also fades the body line. I think a Mustang does too, because I'm working on a 69 Fairlane, but the body line also fades from pronounced to nothing at the rear quarter.
Yes.
So that's really difficult for me as an amateur. Is really difficult.
Sure, and I can appreciate that. Those are the kind of things that are hard to describe talking. Because I've shown people how to do body work before. I've trained people to do body work, and there's a lot of obvious finesse. There's a lot of sensations you get from your hands, what you feel, what you think you feel, and of course visuals of what you see.
Right.
And without being firsthand in front of it, it's hard to say take this block and do this, or try to follow this. It's really hard to do that. Now, if you want to, as a reference, I don't know if you saw the video that I did, repairing body panels, techniques, and tips. That video is about a 2012 or something little Nissan SUV. That thing had 3 complex body lines on the fender that transitioned to the door.
Right. So you've got 3 different angles coming in and converging at a point.
Converging at different points. They actually don't blend together. Okay. But in that video, I show techniques as to how I determine each panel. Like I break it down into sections. A lot of times you can't look at the panel as a one-piece unit. You have to look at this plane, this plane, this plane, and then where they come together, smooth it all out. So that's what I try to talk about in that particular video. So I don't know if you've seen that one or not.
I have not, but I will look for it.
Yeah, it's probably right now it's probably the most popular video that I have on the channel. But it's I think it's repairing body panels, techniques, and tips is what it's called. And it's just
do you have an idea how long ago that was?
It was probably at least maybe 2 years ago.
Okay, so I can look for that in okay.
Yeah, and you could just look up if you typed in techniques and tips, it would probably bring it up, because that's keyword search would probably bring it up, and it might share some some insight into what you're looking for.
Yeah, well, I just it's still, even though I watch, of course, not only your channel but many other channels, it still amazes me that people like you put out this content and teach people like me. It's just, I really appreciate it.
Well, you're welcome.
So much fun. It's so much fun.
Yeah, I mean, and there's obviously there's labor involved with doing these sort of things. But I've done it. I've been making videos for 10 years now, and so I've almost gotten so used to having a camera right there while I'm doing it, and it's some people don't like I'm. It might feel weird for somebody to sit here and just be talking to a camera, which is what I'm
Right.
doing, But I've gotten so used to it now that I just almost film everything I can. And
Yeah, I mean, I've thought about, because you do Mustangs and there's people that do Novas and there's people that do things for other reasons. I thought about my Fairlane project and go, nobody's doing a Fairlane. Maybe I'll videotape it and put it on YouTube.
Yeah,
but I can't imagine doing that. I just, that's not new. It takes a special person like you to take the time to do that. So
right.
I don't think I can do it.
It's not easy. There are people
exactly
that they've started filming because of me. They've actually created their own channel and started doing things, but they can attest to it. It's not natural to just sit here and go, take this and turn it this way and turn that, and when you do this, this is what's going to happen, sort of thing. But anyway, that it just doesn't come naturally to most people.
Yeah, and I think certainly you deserve acknowledgement for that, and people that have successful channels deserve that acknowledgement.
Yeah,
because they do things for a certain reason and they're good at it.
Yeah.
I just hope to get my car done and be able to drive it someday.
Well, yeah.
I can do that, and that's great.
Well, and that's the thing too. I look at, like, again, my dad had a junkyard, so I got to see so many cars get crushed, destroyed, scrapped, whatever. And as a kid, I was attached to all those cars. I mean, that was my playground. Was every car that I ever saw, and so I inherently I have it built into me that I want to save every car, just because. I mean, it's just I hated to see them get crushed. So, in that respect as well, that's why I try to share as much information, because people can get frustrated. They can give up on a project and get rid of it, and not know or have access to information that will help them move further down the road, So,
yeah. Hey, just as a last question before I sign off, it's in respect to what you just said. Do you know the channel Cold War Motors?
No.
I believe he's out of Canada, and he saves old 50s, 60s, and 70s cars, generally Chrysler products.
Okay.
Cold War Motors.
War Motors.
He's trying to save these old cars, like sounds like we'd like to do as well. So it's a great channel. A lot of great content.
Cool.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, there's I'm sorry.
Go ahead, please.
I'm just saying there seems to be a growing niche of people like that. Because there's a lot of people that will do just a real fast process repair video, whatever. And a lot of those get a lot of views and a lot of subscribers and stuff like that. But then there's, it seems like there's a group of us, in a sense, that are, say, maybe a little more dedicated to the craft and, for the purpose behind it. And that seems to be growing somewhat.
Yeah. And I'm happy for that, because one of the mantras of that channel I just told you about was, once they're gone, they're gone.
Yeah.
They're not back.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're exactly right.
I hope I haven't bored your viewers to death.
Oh, no.
Thank you very much for inviting me. And I'll keep enjoying your channel. I appreciate it.
Okay. Well, get that car done.
I will eventually.
All right. We'll see you.
See you, Barry.
Okay. Let me see if I can get caught up on some of these over here on the side. Yeah, I've had a few oddballs showing up. I've tried to block them out as best I can. And let's see, Chris Anyone else think Mercury cars are unappreciated? I'm looking for a 72 Mercury Montego. Those are kind of hard to find. Yeah, there's a lot of well, let's say not a lot of those cars around. Try finding a Cyclone. There you go. That'd be even better. But they're unappreciated or underappreciated, I would say. But I mean, there's still people that love them and still building them. And there's doing the Cougars and stuff like that. But Montego, that's a little bit more of a challenge. Yeah, Robert Clymer says yes. Yeah, he agrees with you. They're underappreciated. Alex checking in from Mexico. Glad you're here. Doyle, if there are cracks in the filler at the rear roof seal panel, do I need to remove the lead, or can I clean out and use short strand filler in those areas? That's a tough question. I would get the filler out of there and get a good look at it. It's hard to say why there's cracks unless they just piled it up on there. I typically remove the lead, but you don't have to. If it's still in good shape, you can leave it, but sand down into it so you can find if there's a flaw. As an example, maybe the lead is separated from the steel or something, and that's what led to the crack in the filler. So you got to trace down to where that crack started from and then decide from there. It's not hard to get the lead out. And then from there, I use short strand filler. So hope that helps. Thomas, you can also use ductwork matting from Home Depot. Works great before you pay a comparison to more expensive insulation. Okay, so you're talking about insulating like a firewall or something like that. So the ductwork matting. Okay. Alex says he has a 77 Trans Am and needs some help. Winged Warrior is saying to Brian, block, and then block some more. Yep. That's a good answer. Crash Rider Will, appreciate the time and effort you put in your videos. Thanks for sharing. Thank you, Crash Rider. I appreciate that. Robert, does he mean build up and redefine the lines? Well, it sounds like that's probably what he's going to have to do is build it up with filler and refine, find that line that's there somewhere. Chris Greenway, I own a 77 Formula Firebird, no body lines. Yeah, that's pretty much a smooth car. Robert Clymer, Chris, my favorite Mercury, 65 Cyclone and 67 Cougar. Yeah, those are good choices. I don't know what Alex is saying in Spanish. Or Alexis. Sorry, Alexis. Crash Rider, that was the video that got me started on your channel. Okay, cool. Thank you, Robert. I don't know what some of these are on the side. Nick Gurr. I'm back. Okay. Didn't know you were gone. Chris Greenway. Robert, my dream garage is 70 Mercury Cougar Eliminator, 72 Montego, my 77 Firebird, 72 Torino, and a 69 Mustang. Yeah, sound like good choices. So we've got some conversation going on the side, answering some questions. I'll just let that go. 65. Okay, so Bad Harry's saying 72 Mercury Montego was his first car. That's cool. Let's see. Chris, I own a 77 Formula right now. Is there any tips on a temperamental oil pressure gauge? Engine runs fine, but it freaks out. There's been a debate on some of that stuff for those gauges. I don't know if is it a fluid gauge? I'm assuming it's a real fluid gauge. Has it been changed before? Has it been worked on? Is there air in the line? There's some variables that need to come in play. If there's air in the line, that's a problem. How old is the gauge? Is the original gauge? So it could be the gauge itself is defective. Kind of hard to answer that as well. Doyle, if lead is good, leave it. If not, it all needs to come out. And then to find the root cause, I use Tiger Hair for the first coat, then short glass. There you go. Okay, so Chris, Alexis is wanting to put a ZL1 in a 77. I know LS swaps are very easy. Any information for her? It shouldn't be that hard. I mean, a ZL1, I would 77. You're probably gonna have to do the engine and transmission, because I don't think the engine will bolt up to that. I don't know what usually, the Pontiac and Olds, they had a different bolt pattern. But swap the engine and transmission, and then of course it's just a matter of figuring out the linkage for those various components. Dave Britton checking in. Glad you're here, Dave. I need another moderator. I've been having some clowns show up and try to jump the program. Brian, block sand or block my words? No, block sand. Block sand. Okay. I had something else I wanted to share with you. A couple things. I received a package from Rick Stevenson, and in that package, I received my Panama plate. That's pretty cool. I don't have. I have a few foreign plates. I have a couple Australian plates. One from Ontario, one from Prince Edward Island, and one from American Samoa. So now I've got a Panama plate. And that's pretty cool because I spent a month in Panama doing jungle training. And yeah, that's pretty cool. So that'll go up on the wall. And also, he sent me a hat. So it has an Orion P3 on it. That's basically like a radar aircraft. So thank you for the hat. I'll leave that on for a while. And also a sticker from Lockheed Martin. So thank you, Rick. I appreciate all three of these items, but the license plate in particular, that's going to go up on the wall. So anyway, we have Robert Clymer, very cool plate. Yep. Topher Opper is saying hello. Where are you from, Topher? Christian Kids TV is checking in. I'm 53 on the outside. Let me see here. Old Crony's Garage. We did some transmission work on my uncle's 99 Dodge. 47 RE transmission fluid smelled like someone's burning cooking oil. That's not a good sign. That's never a good sign. Yep. It is a cool hat, Arby. I like it. I like hats. I have a ton of hats. I've worn a variety of hats. I still have the cool USA hat from Maintenance Matters, New Jersey. And then I have Donnie Roebuck's hat, construction company down in Florida. Of course, my Joe Daddy's hats. I have a bunch of hats. Earl Smithson. Let's see. Barry really enjoyed the fender hole repair video. Wait, whoa. Barry really enjoyed the fender hole repair. Can't wait to see Jade in primer. As you know, that's a major milestone. Yes, it is. I'm glad you liked the video. And that is something else I'm working on. I've worked on the fenders over there. And I've been stripping the headlight buckets. And that's no fun. I did this one earlier today, and of course the other one still needs to be done, but I'm narrowing down the things that need to be cleaned up. Now, I recently checked the rear valance. It was, for some reason, loaded with Bondo, so I hammer and dollied that one into shape again. And I checked, as I've posted pictures where I'm finding, pieces and parts of the car, new parts that I bought. And I forgot that I bought new backup lights. So I was test fitting those into the rear valance to make sure those fit. There's still going to need to be some body work on there. And I'm going to, but I wanted to make sure those rear lights fit. And I think I'm going to order new front lights, the parking lights up front. I think I'm going to order new ones of those. The housings are rough and the wires are broken. So probably not worth it to try to fix that. Along with that, I still have some things to clean up, like the headlight rings, and I found out, I wasn't sure, but both of these headlight buckets are replacement pieces. They're not original. I thought they were original initially, but the ones that have replaced usually have this brown primer on them. And so these are aftermarket headlight buckets. Another thing I need to address, and I took these, I had this, the grill pieces or surround. Well, as I'm digging through my parts, I discover that I'm missing this piece that would go between, that would bring the grill halves, the pieces together. So little stuff like that, I'm going to have to order, get stuff coming so that when it does get everything ready, I can put it together. But right now, the plan is to finish stripping the headlight buckets. I've got the front and rear valance stripped. I've got the rock guard piece that goes between the headlight buckets stripped, repaired. There was some damage to it. The front valance is aftermarket. The rear valance is original. Somebody had drilled holes in and ran screws up into the bottom of the quarters. I have to remedy that, which I've already done. I've already welded the hole shut. So there's, just some things that I'll have to address and also get on order to get it, fitted up. But I want to get everything in primer and finish the fitment test. Also, if you look, the hood is back there in that box. I thought I had taken that hood out of the box. Apparently I didn't. It doesn't appear that box has been opened. And I bought that 7 years ago. 7 years ago. So anyway, I'll have to get everything in place. I've got new hood hinges for it. I've got a bunch of stuff that I can get set up. Goodmunder, I used to see AWACS Raider planes fly over Iceland all the time when I was growing up. I'll bet you did. I'll bet you did. Derek, plate would look great with my collection. Yeah, nope. I got it now. It's mine. Christian Kids TV, very nice hat. What would you recommend, a Toyota or a Highlander? Toyota or a Highlander? It's the same thing. I'm confused by the question. Might want to separate that a little bit. Transmission pan was dented upward, so we had to do some work to the pan. We think it's a retired fire truck. Interesting. Chris, I bought the 77 Firebird TA for my father. He sold his when my older sister was born. 43 years later, his 20-year-old son gifted a 77 Folio for this year's father. Awesome. That's awesome. For this year's Father's Day, I see that. Bad Harry's, can you sandblast the headlight buckets? I can. I use my blaster. The thing is, it's pretty small, and it would be pretty hard to manipulate that thing around inside there. If nothing else, I can knock off most of the paint and maybe go back into the blaster. But it makes a mess. My blaster is not airtight. I haven't put a vacuum on it. And so at times I get frustrated with it and don't even want to touch it. But some sanding disc and some pads and whatnot, and I can strip most of the paint off of these things. And that's what I've done. And Derek Pro, rear valance, man, lots of patience. Yep. But my panel is original. That's the plus. So I know I have to remake the little tab where the bolt attaches that draws into the bottom of the quarter. Somebody cut that off. So I'm going to remake that, or I'll cut it off of one of the spare Valance panels that I have and go from there. We have Erdogan saying Sa. Christian Kids, what is your favorite car from those old times? Well, that's a good question because I grew up in the junkyard and I was around all kinds of cars. My dad used to have a bunch of Studebakers, so I have an affection for Studebakers, the likes of which I would enjoy as a 53 Starlight Coupe or Commander or President, whichever you want to call it, 53 Starlight Coupe. 59 Studebaker Lark. I like those. I like them. It's a little boxy car. I just love them. 61 Bubble Top Impala. Pretty cool car. 62 Galaxy 500. I like those. Of course, the 69 Mach 1, a 70 Mach 1, really any of the Mustangs. Mopars, 67 Plymouth Belvedere, Chargers, all those. I mean, there's too many that I like. Robert Clymer is saying NPD for that piece, Barry. Well, I'm going to get into NPD here soon and order a bunch of little stuff. I need like little hardware items to put all that grill stuff together. So thank you for that. Yeah, Chris, I won't do that. Yeah, I won't do that. Rick, Jade is the reason why I started following your channel about when you started rebuilding the front end. It's when I got my current project. Glad you're here. Winged Warrior. There's lead in the headlight bucket and the rear quarter extensions. Be safe. Okay. I mean, I know it's pot metal, but I guess there's, lead is part of the element of that. So, yeah. I wear a respirator when I'm working on this stuff. There were times where I didn't, but anymore, just put on a respirator and be safe. Old cronies would think it's a retired fire truck that some farmer used as a farm truck in Missouri. Need a ton of front end work. Yeah, very possible. Kuderlev, it's amazing how many bits, parts, and pieces you will have to order. I've been spending much of Coronation installing, replacing parts that were lost or drifted off over the years. Yep. Well, and some of the stuff I have is, just too rough. Little clips that hold the trim, they're breaking apart, and so it's just not worth it to fight with them. Naseo's Gaming, my favorite is a 67 Chevy Impala from the show Supernatural. Yeah, that's a cool car. And that's a four-door, though. But that's okay. Yeah, that's... I get you, Robert, but I'm not going to fight the system. 61 Bubble Top, my first car at 16. Awesome. And Grease Rookie, don't forget to hit the thumbs up on this video. Yes, by all means, please hit the thumbs up. Okay. I have something else I want to talk about. I received some more pictures from Bad Harry. If you were following along, we were talking last time where he was building he's doing a coupe to fastback conversion. And he has sent me some pictures of his progress, and I'm really impressed. So I'm going to go through a couple of these pictures. I did not download all of them, Harry, but I did download some. And let me see. I'll start with this one. So if you remember, he had this coupe that he had bought, and he decided to turn it into a fastback. Well, he did a bunch of repair work to it beforehand. So he fixed up the front end, he put in floor pans in it, got the the rear section all rebuilt so that it was a good straight candidate for the conversion. And as you can see, here he is setting the roof onto the body that has been reworked. Let me get another picture here. And I think that's the A-pillar that he's doing some construction work to it. And if I remember seeing a picture, yeah, he did it right. I've said this before. If you're doing this sort of work, do not do a butt weld on an A-pillar without a sleeve inside it. So thank you for showing us this. So he's built a sleeve that goes inside of the A-pillar. He's got plug welds that hold the sleeve in place. It will also reinforce the A-pillar. So when everything is done, and then you can weld it around and make it solid again and have a good solid A-pillar. So anytime I see somebody do one of these projects, I stress that. Don't just butt the A-pillar back together and hope for the best. Put a piece inside as well. Here's a shot of the roof structure on the car. And you can see he has all new panels in the back section. That's looking really good. And here's another shot of the other side, fitting up the passenger side quarter panel. So that's really good as well. Let me see what these other pictures are. Oh, that's go back to this one. So again, I did not download all these pictures, but it's pretty cool to see something like this, coming together. And he's doing a great job on it. Really impressed. Looking forward to seeing more and more of this car come together. And it will be racing down the drag strip as well. So we already know that. Okay. Thank you, Harry, for sharing those pictures. I appreciate it. Let me go back up here. Where am I at? Sorry. Got out of place. And there we go. Chris, I love the Firebird formula as so many cars shows have Trans Am. When's the last time you've seen a 77 formula? Very true. And I actually had a 77 formula. Yeah, I think it was it was 77. Sorry, not a 77. That was a 81, I think it was. Yeah, it had the big rubber nose on it. So maybe it was a Firebird. It doesn't matter. It's not a 77. They look different. I like the way they look. Thank you, Rick, for the thumbs up. Robert, Uncle Tony's Garage loves him some 4-doors. I'm sure he does. Yeah, Chris Greenaway, a lot of money for the conversion. That is true. It takes time and money, it takes materials and labor. So, but it's pretty cool. Doyle Walker, EDP coating on replacement parts, sand to epoxy, or straight to 2K primer, Eastwood brand. There's always been a debate on that. I've had some people say they've actually found rust underneath the EDP coating. I've had good luck with panels where I've not taken it all the way off. And it depends on where I'm at. Like like that hood over there. Okay. That's the 68 hood for Jade. I'm going to sand the whole top of that hood off. I'm going to take it all down to bare metal and spray it with epoxy. The underside of the hood, no. That's too much work. But the top is what I want to see and make sure it's good to go and solid. But anymore, that's what I normally do is I take all that EDP coating off of the inside in particular. I don't do it on the outside. I'm sorry. I don't do it on the inside. Now, what I'll do on that hood is, scuff the underside and shoot it with primer because I want the color to match all the rest of the car with the gray primer. That's all I'm going to do to that. On the outside, it'll get epoxy, gray primer, and go from there. So that's kind of how I look at it right now. Robert Clymer, I like the old pronunciation for coupe. Yeah. Well, it's kind of like the Model A Fords. My car is a two-door sedan, but they spell it two-door, Tudor. And the four-door version is spelled Fordor. So it's a four-door sedan or a two-door Tudor sedan. Just one of those kind of goofy things they do. Old Cronies is checking out on us. Okay, glad you were here. Bad Harry's mostly street cars with vintage air. Oh, I missed something there. Sunwell drag race in street class. Very cool. Thank you for the thumbs up, Old Crony. Doyle, my wife and I dated in a 62 Studebaker Champ with a 3 on the tree and a pull button overdrive. We love that body style, way ahead of its time. They were all of them were ahead of their time. That's why I always pick on the 53 Starlight Coupe. I've said it before and I'll say it again. There's nobody manufacturing a car in 53 U.S. manufacturers that could compete with the looks of that car. Take a look at a 53 Chevy, a 53 Ford, a 53 Dodge, 53 Plymouth, 53 whatever. They were just boxes. They had big round fenders on them, but they were just bulky, boxy cars. And then you roll out this 53 Starlight Coupe. which is still setting land speed records at, the desert salt flats. And you're like, oh my gosh, look at that car. I can't believe they didn't sell millions of those things, but it may have been that, again, it was too far ahead of its time because people were like, no, I like that big, bulky, boxy looking thing. I don't understand that sleek, gorgeous, lowy body that Studebaker makes. Just like you look at the Hawks, all those things. There's just gorgeous cars. Now, they did make some clunkers. They did make some ugly cars. I will say that. But there's not a car out there that competes in the looks appearance of the 53 Starlight Coupe, and even 54. They shared the same hood design. 55, they went to a more of a catfish mouth kind of opening in the grill, and then they also merged with Packard and created the Packard Hawk, which ended up with this big fiberglass, ugly nose on it. I'm not going to that. 53 Starlight Coupe, probably to me is the best looking Studebaker that was made, other than the 37 Express pickup. So we've had that debate before. Vin will always make the appraisal for a coupe converted, not an original. That's true. It doesn't matter though. You can build whatever you want. If he wants to build a fastback out of that, good for him. I wouldn't mind doing it myself. It's getting hard to find. Well, it is hard to find any kind of fastback in a reasonable price range. And if you have, can find the right coupe, make it a conversion and do it right. As long as you do it right, you're never going to pass it off as a true fastback based on the VIN, but you can still build your dream car. That's the way I look at it. Leonard checking in. Glad you're here. Winged Warrior. Hey, Barry, ever start your Model A with the engine crank? No, I have not. There's a reason why I converted it to 12 volt. And that's so I'd never have to use that crank. And I can relate. I'm going to go, and I think I've talked about this before. Since you brought that up, I'm going to flag hold on. Junkyard story time. Okay. Since you brought that up and talking about the hand crank, and I probably had talked about this before, but this every time I think of a hand crank, this triggers this memory. So I'm going to bring this back up. You talk about a hand crank. Well, I have an older brother who is probably would in every aspect appear to be twice as thick as I am. He is a tank, just always been super strong. He was an arm wrestling champion. He could take vice grips and squeeze them together with his hand and make the jaws snap out. He was just, always incredibly strong. Well, he, growing up at the junkyard, we all had in different ways we got injured or hurt and whatever. So years ago, this was 89, probably 89, winter of 89. I think winter of 80. Anyway, close around 88, 89. I'd gotten out of the military and I was helping my brother up at the junkyard. And we had this old Alice Chalmers tractor that would only start with a crank. It didn't, I don't know why, if the starter was bad or whatever. So my brother, big and strong, he's trying to start. He wants me to help him start this thing up. I'm not real comfortable with the crank myself. I've never really done that to this tractor. And I tried it a couple times and I had a thought in my mind because when I was at that time, I was going to A&P school for aircraft maintenance. And one of the things they pointed out, they said, don't do anything stupid, get yourself hurt because it'll delay your graduation and that could cause you, problems down the road and blah, blah, blah. And so I was concerned that by trying to hand crank this tractor, that if it kicked back, I could have easily, had an injury, broke a wrist, who knows? And so I did it a couple times and I was like, you know what? I don't want to do this. I just don't want to do this. So my brother's, of course, he called me some names and he says, get out of the way. I'm like, okay, go ahead. You know, I'm not going to fight you over it. So he gets the crank, and he's muscling this thing through, and I can see it takes a lot more effort than I was probably able to put into it. So it pop a couple times, pop didn't start, and he's really getting serious now. So he gets on that crank. Well, he had so much force on it that now this thing didn't have like the plate that you would put the crank through like the Model A does. It's got a location where you can keep it in the engine, keep it from moving around. This was almost like it was in free space, from what I remember of it. Well, he did that. The crank came off the engine. It slung around, and it cracked him like right here in the head. Now, he had on a big, like a knit cap, but I mean, it was, when you hear something like hit a piece of wood, a thunk, it's a hit. And I heard that, and he kind of like staggered back for a second, and I said, "Are you okay?" He's like, "I don't know." And he reached up and he pushed his hat up, and he started rubbing his head, and I stopped and I looked at him, and there was a gash about that long that went all the way to his skull. It split him open completely. And I looked at him and I said, I think we're going to the hospital. He's like, "No." I said, "Yeah, I think we're going to the hospital." "No." I said, "Yeah." So he went into our house, and I remember that, I'll never forget this. He goes into our bathroom, and he goes up to the mirror, and he's looking at it, and he's going like this. He's pulling it apart, and he's going, "Oh man, that's my skull." And I'm like, yeah, it's your skull. Yeah. Let's go to the hospital. Well, we went to the hospital, and they I forget how many stitches they put in, but they had to stitch his head up. And and the funny part was, I told him, I said, I don't want to turn that crank. So he ended up with the injury. So that's the end of that one. So hope you enjoyed that. I don't like using the crank. Brian, painting an engine bay, should I use single stage or two stage? Newbie here and intimidated by color sanding. Okay. Are you trying to paint it? What color are you painting it? A certain color? What kind of car are you painting? The Mustangs are typically all black in that area. I have a video on a Mustang that I did years ago where I painted the engine bay black, and I used DP90 epoxy. So if you want it black, it's an easy way to go. Turn out super smooth, look good. So it's up to you on that. Now, if you're going single stage or two stage, sounds like you're doing some sort of a color, but give me some more information and we'll go from there. Wayne Worry, I was too afraid to try it with my 30 coupe. Yeah. Which car you like better if you had to choose, BMW or Mercedes? I don't. Probably BMW. It doesn't really matter. I'll probably never have one. I did have a Mercedes briefly, and I only bought it so I could flip it and sell it, make some money. But yeah, I mean, they both have their niche. It depends on the car too, but I'll just say BMW because it comes to mind. That Studebaker is nice. Yes. Hello, Telugu Technaveen. Glad you're here. Morgo is checking in. All right. We got a couple saying hi. Bad Harry's, Chris, I have ownership that came with the roof. It is a conversion, but registered as a fastback. Did not make it to sell. So there you go. That's another way to look at it. Telugu. How are y'all? I think we're doing good. Yeah, Chris. No, I'm just saying everyone has their opinions. I know my appraiser has done a couple Torino converted fastbacks, but had to base the price on the coupe. Yes. Yep. All goes on that VIN number. Goes all on that VIN number. Max 65. How do you install the two pieces that go in the door frame for the weather strip on a 65 fastback? Okay. Are you talking about on either side of the glass? As I'm assuming you're referring to the long on the top of the door, right? How do you install the door frame for the what? Okay. Here's something I haven't done this personally, but I did figure out that at the bottom, at least on the 68, and I think it's the same for the 65, on the bottom of the window track or the stop point for the window, there's a rubber bumper. And I just recently learned this. There's a rubber bumper. If you take that rubber bumper out of the base that it's in the bottom of the door, the window will go down further. And then when it goes down further, you can put those pieces in. I learned that myself just recently. I was working on the 68, taking the glass out, and I was fighting with it. And a friend of mine who's worked on these cars, in that manner, he was like, yeah, there's a rubber bumper on the bottom, and you can retract it down in. And I was like, now you tell me. I'd fought with it, taking a bunch of stuff apart. So hopefully that helps. Good question. It's just me. World War II German engine trainer and a Great Escape had an engine crank. It did, but I'm also thinking it had a spring wind. I don't know. I don't remember if it was in a direct. I thought it was a crank because I used to crank up the spring, and then you'd release the tension on the spring, and it would make the engine turn. I think that's what that one had, but that's a good observation. Leonard had a friend whose grandfather had a tractor that only started with a hand crank. It would flip you. Yeah, I'm not a fan. I'd rather catch it in gear than to try to hand crank it. No. Okay, so 87 C10 blue. Yeah. Well, in that case, it depends how good you are with paint. If you're comfortable spraying single stage, you're probably better off just doing single stage. It'll cover everything, and if you need to touch it up, you can. I would probably go single stage on that truck. Just my opinion. Yeah, he was a bit cranky after that. But the weird part was afterwards, they had to put pressure on it to compress it so they could stitch together and stuff. And the doctor said, okay, after that, don't eat anything for 4 hours or something. So of course my brother's, I was driving and he said, take me to Burger King. After all that, we went straight to Burger King and he, got a big meal and ate it. He didn't listen to the doctor very well. Yeah. Crash Rider. So accidents are a family trait, huh? Yeah. But I will say, I think my brother has had a lot more injuries than I have. Of course, my latest, stupid me flipping over the go-kart in the backyard. But yeah, there's been a lot of injuries. That's where, if any of you have been seeing my videos, if you ever notice, there's a big, I don't know if you can see it. I think I've shown this before. I've got this big old scar that runs across my arm. Kind of hard to see. Big scar. Anyway, and there's no point on my elbow. If you were to compare the two, it's really hard to show you, but this is rounded off. I shattered my elbow when I was 15, and that was not pretty. But that's probably the worst injury I've had. I think. Yeah, that's probably the worst injury I had. When you explode the base of your humerus bone, the X-ray looks like a literal explosion. Trust me, you've done something. Robert, got to run. Thanks again, Barry, for all you do, sir. Good night, chat. Good night. Good night, chat. Cheers from Motown. Glad you were here, Robert. Jorge checking in. Man, it's kind of late here. Where you been, Jorge? Chris, any tips to remove old undercoating from fenders? I've tried everything. You've tried everything? Everything? I've heard using a heat gun actually helps. That may be a thought. If you were to, take a heat gun and kind of heat it up and then hit it with a putty knife, most of the time it takes it right off. So I'm not sure if you've tried that or not, but a heat gun does wonders to that sort of thing. So have you tried that? That's the question. Derek's got to go. Stay well. Be careful. Yeah, I'm glad you're here, Derek. Dave Britton, I fell 17 feet last week. Nothing broken, but I'm hobbling around. Wow. Fell 17 feet. That's a big drop. I don't want to do that. No, I don't want to do that. My first broken heart was my worst injury. Yeah. 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 Max 65. Two piece I'm talking about go from the B pillar to A pillar up under the drip rail. The two pieces go on, and then the weather strip, the window rests on the weather strip with windows all the way up. Okay, so are you talking about the stainless piece that holds the door seal? And it's two pieces? Two pieces I'm talking about go from B pillar to A pillar up under the drip rail. Okay, so you're talking about the weather strip. Okay. And your question is how to install it? Because there should be screws in it. I mean, it should have had big flat screws, and you're supposed to take it had tape on it. So you get some of that 1 inch wide 3M weather strip adhesive tape and put that on that stainless. And then there should be two. I know it is on the coupes. There's two little tabs that are bent up that are alignment tabs that go into a square hole that's up in the roof pillar. And so those help you with your alignment along with the shape of that piece of trim. But there should be little stubby screws that have a big flat, Phillips head in them. Should be existing holes there. If you don't have that, then something's wrong. Yes, Chris, heat gun works really, really well. Fell off a 16-foot ladder. Luckily, I was only on the bottom rung. Yeah. Yeah. Try to re-cleaner. Yeah, the cleaner won't touch that undercoating. Take a heat gun and be careful with it. Assuming it's the original stuff. Now, the more modern stuff, I can't say whether it would peel off like that, but use a heat gun and you'll get good results. Lots going on. I'll be home. I will be for Home Depot. I will be. What? What are you saying, Jorge? I will be for Home Depot. 2/1/2021. Are you going to be working for Home Depot? Is that what you're saying? So I don't quite get it. You're welcome, Mac. Oh, speaking of work, I've got some other something else I wanted to address. Recently, my daughter. You'll be working for Home Depot. Okay, well that's interesting. I hope that works out well. I know you were working for that medical supply place. Hope nothing bad happened. But I hope Home Depot works out for you. Here's something that my daughter signed up for Uber Eats. Now, I would never even have considered doing something like that, honestly, just because. And she signed up for this Uber Eats, and she started telling me about the money she was making doing this thing. And she said, yeah, if you sign up, Dad, then I get like a bonus or something. I don't know. And I was like, well, I'll sign up for it. See how it goes. Just because. Well, it's as I'm retired from my regular job now, and I'm out here all day working on stuff or doing stuff around the house, taking care of things, taking care of the animals, whatever. And then an evening, I may just sit down and watch TV, or Monday nights be here with you, or Thursday afternoons. So I signed up for this Uber Eats, and I thought, let me just see how this works. I don't care. I don't mind. I like driving things, driving around. So I signed up for it on, I think Thursday last week. And again, I just wanted to see how it went. So I did Thursday, and it was a learning curve because I'd never done that before. And I didn't know the procedures. I didn't know what I was supposed to do or not supposed to do. But anyway, I started doing these Uber Eats delivery thing. Well, I ended up doing I think 4 deliveries on Thursday night. I think I made like $47 or something. And it was all local. It wasn't nothing hard to do. But once I figured it out, I was like, okay. I did pretty, felt pretty good about it. Well, I probably haven't talked about this before, but there's a TV show that's been on for years called The Amazing Race. And that TV show is something I've always wanted to do. I've always wanted to be on that show and do do the show. It's this Amazing Race. And because it's like you travel the world and you do the scavenger hunt type of thing. Well, this Uber Eats is kind of like a scavenger hunt. It's kind of like a contest. And so I did it. I did it Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And again, just because, I like driving. It's kind of fun. Well, I did that all those 3 days. And I ended up making like $263 just for driving around food, just delivering food to people. And a lot of that was, because of tips. So anyway, that's something else that I've been kind of doing because I don't want to I hate just sitting in front of a TV and watching time go by. I'd rather be doing something, and I don't want to be out in the garage 14 hours a day. So I can take 2 or 3 hours, whatever, and drive around, deliver food, make a little money. Pretty easy to do. Okay, so Jorge says they got sold. Oh, that sucks. Bad Harry's. Barry, you're correct for the piece of chrome on 67 Fastback is screwed, and then the second or next piece installed was riveted on my Fastback. Okay, see, now I have not dealt with the Fastbacks to know that. So thank you for sharing that. So that helps out with that question about the trim. Hopefully that helps out with that question on Max restoration. Now yours is on a 65 though, I think, because it says 65 Max Mustang restoration. So I don't know if it's different between a 65 and 60. Well, it must be the same process. Still take a rivet. Willie, how can I send pictures of the Mustang restoring to you for you to check out? Send them to this email that's on the bottom of the screen right now. If you want to send me any pictures or whatever, send them to that email, and then we can go from there. Winged Warrior, I do see that you sent me an invite. Maybe we'll do it next time because it's already been 2 hours and 9 minutes. I didn't realize it was already that long, which is okay, but I need to get in the house very soon. Chris Greenaway, Ontario sucks. Winterize the car. Hopefully going to repaint any tips for decals. I have the Trans Am pinstripes. Spoiler piece is not OEM on a Formula, but I'm not paying $200 for the Trans Am package. I don't like to do decals, and I really can't offer you much advice on those. I've seen people make a soapy solution, lay them out, take squeegee out the fluid from underneath it, and it sticks. That's about the best I can tell you. Doyle Walker, thanks, Barry. We'll enjoy your videos and info tonight. Night all. Thanks for being here. Brendan's Garage checking in. Glad you're here. You're about to see the end of the show, though, because I got to get in the house. But still, glad you're here. Afternoon smoke break. Okay. Jerry Gallegos. Hi, this is my first time checking your live video out. Really cool. Well, glad you're here, Jerry. You get a bell for being here your first time. And you'll notice if I'm doing these live streams, I will hit the bell when somebody makes a good comment or leaves a good comment or answers a question or whatever, or has a good question. So, that's how I operate. Sometimes I give myself a bell. If I remember something, I'd get my own reward for that, Pedro Barbosa. Hi, Barry. Real lecture video. I'm patching the antenna hole in the fender. Thank you, Pedro. Appreciate that. Jorge, Barry, come to New Jersey, help with my car. I'll buy food and beer. Nope. Weather's changing. It's getting cold. Not going to do it. Dave, did you say what kind of antenna you're going to use on the Mustang? No. Well, I did mention it, that I've seen the little stubby antennas they use on like sports cars, little flexible ones. That's all I'm going to use. Basic little aftermarket antenna that you can really put it underneath the dash. It'll work. It doesn't have to be sticking out of the car. It'll work. So, okay. Wayne Warrior, have fun tonight. Good. Crash Rider, quick 2 hours. Yeah, it's actually 2:12. So I really have to go. Jerry, I'm going to be needing some advice later on my 7428 Super Coverjet motor. I know it's kind of late. Maybe next time. Yeah. Well, maybe next time. And if I can't answer the question, which odds are I may not be able to, there's plenty of people on here who have information and are willing to share. And so by all means, okay. So anyway, I'm going to call it a night. And yeah. Okay. So again, I will be doing this on Thursday afternoon at 3 p.m. for our European friends. And, then back on Monday night at 7. And we'll try to keep this going and share information and answer questions as best we can. So that's going to be it. Thank you all for being here. Thank you all for using Amazon to buy stuff. That helps out. All of those that have become patrons to my page, thank you for that. And also, there are still, I have, I have my T-shirts on Teespring. I have this and the Team Brooklyn Pony, and there may be something else coming out soon. Maybe we'll see. But that's going to be it. Let me clear this out, and that's going to be it. Yep. So until next time, take care of yourselves. See ya.